Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hello, Lakers Nation. Welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Well, the season's starting to wind down a little bit. We're looking ahead to the draft lottery, to free agency, to all that sort of stuff, because unfortunately, the Lakers aren't making the playoffs. But that's okay. There's still plenty of things going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers that we need to break down, that we need to dive into. We're going to do that in just a moment. Before we do, quick thanks to our sponsors, betonline.ag and Harry's Razors, and of course, always a big thank you to Lakers Nation's sponsor, Vivid Seats, the official ticket reseller of Lakers Nation. All you have to do is open up the Vivid Seats app in your phone, punch in the promo code Lakers Nation in all caps, get 10% off tickets to your next Lakers game. Hurry up and do it before the season is over. Okay, so a lot going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Usually, I bring on a guest. I'll be joined by somebody to talk about everything that's going on in the world of the Lakers, usually from their slant. And there's so many things going on right now that I wanted to say, that I wanted to get out there and discuss and break down, that I figured this is a good time to do a solo show. So it's just me today, and we're going to be talking about a number of different topics. I'm going to start out, though, with a quick recap of this past weekend. It was a really, really fun experience. What I did was I went and hosted a watch party for the Lakers and Hilton Hotels at Hotel Maya in Long Beach at the restaurant there called Fuego, which is a Latin fusion restaurant. Amazing food, really, really good. Very cool environment, overlooking the water, just beautiful place. Tons of Lakers fans turned up because the Lakers brought out AC Green for Lakers versus Celtics. It was for that game, and the 2000 NBA Championship trophy. So that was a ton of fun. Fans got to take pictures with the trophy. They got to meet AC. He was signing autographs, all sorts of things. It was a wonderful night, and I want to fill you guys in on some stuff that was behind the scenes here. So first of all, this was my first experience meeting AC Green, and he was exactly as you would expect him to be. He was super nice, very friendly. It struck me that he stayed and he chatted with every single fan. He signed personal messages to everybody. They were passing out pictures of AC playing, and he wrote personal messages on there to each person. My parents were huge Lakers fans, still are, huge Lakers fans. And so they came out because they wanted to meet AC Green, and my mom talked his ear off because that's what she's good at. And he took it all right in stride and was happy and signed everything that he needed to, and just did a fantastic job. One of the things that I found pretty funny was chatting with AC ahead of time. So I had to submit my questions to him early, so he would know what I was going to be asking him, so he could prepare, because we did a little question and answer session in front of the crowd there, and so he knew I was going to ask a little bit about injuries. He's the NBA Iron Man. He holds the record for the most consecutive games played in NBA history, a record which is going to stand for a long, long time, because nobody's even close to breaking his record. But I was going to ask him about that and the Lakers injuries, and so we were just kind of off to the side chit-chatting about it, and one of the PR people was over there with us, and AC, I asked him about injuries, and he had this answer already, and he didn't give this one to the crowd, but I thought it was hilarious. AC said that he doesn't know a whole lot about injuries. He didn't experience many injuries over the course of his career, but he knows that in order to heal up from injuries like the one Lonzo Ball suffered, you need to be patient. And he does know quite a bit about being patient. And those of you who know AC's background know exactly what I'm talking about. I thought it was hilarious that he said that. I was busting up. And the PR person with me didn't quite know what he was referring to, didn't get it, but I think she laughed a little bit anyway. But AC, very, very cool guy, very cool to hang out. Jas Kang, who's my co-host for the Lakers Nation postgame show, came by. We did a live postgame show from the hotel. That was a ton of fun. Met some of the people, probably some of you who are listening right now were there. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do this again. I would really like to do some maybe Lakers Nation watch parties for say, maybe the draft lottery, or at least the draft itself. So these are things that I'd like to start incorporating. So if you have some ideas for these or thoughts or anything like that, hit me up with them. In fact, give us a rating on iTunes. That'd be a great way to get the message to me. Go rate, review, and subscribe to our show on iTunes. And then in your review, just mention, what do you think about doing some live shows and things like that? I think it'd be a lot of fun. But anyway, AC Green, exactly as you would think he would be. Super nice guy, very good with the crowd. Did a great job, and so that was a ton of fun. And thank you to any of you who came out to be part of that. Now, some news topics that I want to get to are my main focus for today's show is I want to talk a little bit about the Lakers roster building and kind of how we wound up where we are now. Look at the thought process behind things, kind of where things went wrong. And I want to be careful that I don't go too negative here. You know, we in the media, we can get accused of piling on the Lakers, and certainly we see that from the national media quite a bit. But I want to be clear that if I'm being negative about something, if I'm looking at a move the Lakers made and I'm rallying against it, I have spoken out against the Zubats trade for quite a while now, or letting Julius Randle go, and we'll go in depth into those things. Understand that I'm not being negative because I dislike the Lakers. It's the opposite, guys. A lot of you listening probably grew up as Lakers fans, just like I did. I grew up with the Lakers, with this team. The earliest memory I have is of watching the Lakers, watching Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's sky hook and trying to do the exact same thing on my little play school mini hoop. Right? That is as far back as my memory goes. So the Lakers are the earliest memory I have. The Lakers basketball has been a way of life in my family for a long time. And so I feel very lucky that this is the team that I get to cover, that I get to do this for a job is something that I feel very, very fortunate about. So understand that even though we're going to be a little bit negative in some things, I want to finish on a positive today. So after I go through all of the areas where the Lakers kind of went wrong, where things didn't work out, and unfortunately, there's quite a few of them, I also want to talk about this coming summer and how they can fix it. Okay, so that's going to be kind of the third section of our show today. I want to go over a few news things to start off segment one. Segment two, we'll get into a little bit of the issues with roster building and all of that, some of the flaws in the decision-making process. And then for the third and final segment, I want to talk about how you fix this. How do you make it better? How do the Lakers come out of this and be ready to roll next season? Okay, so that's why I kind of want to finish with a positive. So bear with me. Again, I don't want to be too negative. Understand that when I'm not trying to pile on the team or anything like that, because the last thing that I want to see is the Lakers down or anything like that, right? I want to see this team successful just like all of you do. So a few news topics to dive into. Rick Bucher of Bleacher Report has mentioned in a piece that Jeanie Buss briefly considered trading LeBron James this past year. And the reason why was because apparently Rich Paul was, or at least Jeanie thought, it was Rich Paul who was leaking the Anthony Davis trade details. Now, of course, we talked a ton about it on this show as well as the Lakers Nation news feed. We know that the details of the trade, the reported trade, were that the Lakers were going to give everybody. They were going to give up the kitchen sink to the New Orleans Pelicans in order to get Anthony Davis. We're talking the offer that got reported was Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, multiple first-round picks, Josh Hart, Ivica Zubats, rip Ivica Zubats, and take on a bad contract in Solomon Hill, all of that in order to get Anthony Davis, and the Pelicans wouldn't budge and all that sort of stuff. Okay, that was what was reported. And Jeanie recently at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference said that's fake news. That did not happen. We were not going to give up that much. She didn't specify what they were going to give up, but she said it negatively impacted the chemistry of the team, which I think watching the team, you can say that's probably accurate. So Jeanie was not happy. Not happy that this got out there, and she believed it was Rich Paul because Rich Paul is LeBron's agent. Rich Paul is also Anthony Davis's agent. And so she believed it was him that was leaking things, hoping to force a trade to occur, and she was upset. And so she was so upset that she actually considered potentially trading LeBron James just to part ways with Rich Paul, to sever that relationship. So a lot to unpack there. First of all, do we believe this story? I know on Twitter, a lot of people were saying they did not believe it. I think it's believable to a degree. May it have crossed Jeanie's mind that, hey, if Rich Paul is doing these things to sort of sabotage our trade value or the value of our assets, which that's really what it's doing, if it's suggesting that the Lakers will give everyone up in order to get one player, that's sort of sending the message that they don't value those players all that highly, which is certainly not a message that they want to send. That's why usually trade discussions are very much behind closed doors. Is that reasonable to think that Jeanie would have been upset enough to really put that out there, to consider trading LeBron James? It may have crossed her mind at some point, but then when you look at the big picture, LeBron James is one of the greatest players of all time. There are some who would argue that he is the greatest of all time. I still go Jordan. In fact, I'd put Kareem ahead of him as well, but he's in the discussion. You don't trade that guy. You don't trade the guy that is one of the greatest of all time and has been with your franchise for less than a year. That's not a reasonable thing to do unless maybe he's coming to you and saying, hey, this isn't working. I'm not enjoying this. I want out. I need to go elsewhere, which to what we understand has not happened. That's not what's going on. So I would think cooler heads would prevail there. Plus, not to mention, LeBron is a money printing machine, right? I wrote a whole piece for Lakers Nation about how much the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise goes down in terms of economics, in terms of how much revenue they're bringing in when LeBron James is not with them. You're able to look at the numbers and actually see, and it's significant, as well as how much Lakers revenue goes up. Just in ticket prices alone, they go sky high because LeBron James is a Laker. Again, you don't trade that. You don't. So I don't think it's reasonable to think that she seriously considered it. Bucher did mention in his piece that, hey, you know what, Rich Paul and Jeanie were able to discuss this. They talked about it. They cleared the air. Everything's good. Okay, sunshine and rainbows again. Everything's good between Rich Paul and the Lakers. Everything's fine. Could this come up again? Sure. Yeah, I mean, hey, if LeBron decides this really isn't what I signed up for and I want to go somewhere else, maybe it could come up again. If Rich Paul pulls something and Jeanie believes it was him, Rich Paul probably said it wasn't him, but if something like this happens again, maybe it's possible. But highly, highly unlikely the Lakers would really trade him. With these sorts of reports, you also have to consider, where's this coming from? Why would someone put this out there? And we have to remember there are 29 other teams that do not want to see the Lakers be successful. Badly do not want to see the Lakers be successful. They do not like the Lakers. They don't like Rob Pelinka. We've heard that. That's been a storyline that's been brewing recently. They don't like Lakers exceptionalism. They don't like that the Lakers landed LeBron James. They feel like the Lakers haven't had to feel the pinch like other teams have, even though this will be 6 seasons straight that the Lakers haven't been in the playoffs. The small market teams very much like to play the persecution complex, and some of it rightfully so. But in today's NBA, there isn't really this system where they are feeder franchises for the big markets anymore. I mean, look, if they were, the best teams in the league would be in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and they are very much not, right? Out of those franchises, what do you have there? You've got 5 franchises. 2 of them are in the playoffs right now out of those 3 markets. The 5 teams that occupy those 3 markets, 2 of them are in the playoffs. And over the last, decade, those teams have been not good, have not been good. So that sort of flies in the face of this idea that the small markets need to rally against the large markets and they're being bullied and all of these things. But there's certainly some advantage to being in Los Angeles. We can't deny that. It just probably isn't what some of the small markets make it out to be. But in any event, you have to question the source for this. Where is this coming from? Does Bucher have a source inside the Lakers? I mean, it's possible, but seems fairly unlikely. It's probably another team that's speaking up in order to try to lower the Lakers' leverage or mystique or whatever you want to call it. Another report came out that, and this is from Mark Spears of ESPN, that the Pelicans won't trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers. That they will highly resist trading him to the Lakers. They flat out just won't send him there. We saw the Indiana Pacers do something similar with Paul George, where they very much said, hey, look, if we have 2 equal offers and one's the Lakers and the other one is anyone else, we're going with anyone else. Okay, we're not giving him to we don't want to give him where he wants to go. We don't want to make players feel like they are empowered to, while they are under contract, direct their way to any particular team, especially the Lakers, because the Lakers have had so many stars over the years and some people don't like the Lakers because of those things. So Mark Spears is suggesting that the Pelicans will flat out refuse to trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers. Again, got to consider the sourcing. Where is this coming from? Why would someone be saying these things? It's probably not the Pelicans. Or if it is the Pelicans, it's most likely just talking, blustering, whatever you want to call it. If you're the Pelicans, you don't want this story out there. You want out there that, hey, the Pelicans will not trade with the Lakers. You want it out there that the Pelicans will take the best offer from any team because they want to drive those prices higher. If Boston thinks that the Lakers aren't a realistic option, doesn't their trade offer go down? This isn't a positive story for the Pelicans. As much as Pelicans fans want to say, yeah, take that, Lakers, take that, evil giant, right? This franchise that has become the villain in the NBA to so many teams. This doesn't really accomplish anything. Maybe it feels good to say, hey, no, we're not going to let you win. We're not going to let you have our superstar. But in the end, the Pelicans, if you're their front office, you want every team to feel like they have a shot at Anthony Davis and to submit their very best offer because you want them competing against each other. So is this accurate? It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that a reasonable front office, and maybe the Pelicans aren't that. We've seen that they were very much team petty at the trade deadline. It's not necessarily Dell Demps, not necessarily the GM, but it's ownership. Right? Digging their feet in the sand and stomping their feet and saying, no, we will not trade with the Lakers. Maybe that's still a thing. If it is, it's short-sighted and stupid. If that's the case. And it's very possible that Pelicans ownership feels that way, but you would have to think that by the time these trades start to become real, that's after the draft lottery, when we know who has what draft pick, cooler heads will prevail. Of course, I thought cooler heads would prevail too at the trade deadline this last year, and that the Pelicans would realize, hey, the Lakers offer is actually really, really good. But that didn't happen. So we'll see if this is really coming from the Pelicans organization, that they're going to flat out refuse to give Anthony Davis to the Lakers, and they're taking away one of the biggest suitors for their superstar, therefore lowering the offers of other teams around them because they don't have to compete with that offer anymore. That's insanity. That's lunacy, and that is an example of a terribly run franchise if this is legitimately from them. One last news story we need to get to, and this comes from the LA Times, Nathan Fenno of the LA Times. So there's emails that came out through court order urging that Jeannie Buss bring the Lakers back to the Forum, leave Staples Center, come back to the Forum. And look, it makes sense in some ways. The Clippers are trying to build a new arena in Inglewood. This is sort of asking that the Lakers would beat them to the punch, would go back to Inglewood first. Then the Clippers would have no choice but to stay at Staples Center and make do. I'm not going to dig into all of that stuff. I'm not going to dig into Lakers versus Clippers and carving up pieces of Los Angeles or anything, because let's face it, look, hey, the Clippers are good right now. Right? They've been good recently. They've been better than the Lakers for the past, 5-6 years. They've been good. There's no question. Their guys played with fire when the Lakers played them the other night. Patrick Beverley has been throwing barbs through the media at the Lakers, and I guess he should be because they won, right? But in the minds of most people in Los Angeles, the Clippers aren't a thing. They're not. They don't have this, like, I grew up following the Lakers. A lot of you listening grew up following the Lakers. Didn't grow up following the Clippers. That's not really how that worked. The Clippers were the laughingstock franchise. It's going to take a lot more for them to really cut into the Lakers' edge. Okay, if the Clippers weren't able to cut into the Lakers' lead for the heart of Los Angeles, while they had Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan and they were Lob City and all of that kind of stuff, a team, admittedly scrappy, but a team built around Danilo Gallinari and Patrick Beverley and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Williams probably isn't going to get that done. Okay, so that's not necessarily going to be a thing. I don't think that this rivalry is going to hit that level. It's going to take a long time, okay, for the Clippers to really sink into the hearts and minds of Los Angeles. Now, it's not good that they've been better than the Lakers lately. Definitely not good. It's given Clippers fans something to crow about, and that's not a fun thing for Lakers fans. But I think my big takeaway from this is if you go back and look at the email, Jeannie Buss has an email where she sends it. She gives her nickname for Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. She calls him Balls with a Z. Balls with a Z. Here's the direct quote. Didn't Balls, again with a Z, see what we did to my brother? Question mark. He will have nothing but Clippers basketball. Whoopee. This is why people don't like the Lakers. This is why other teams around the league aren't happy with the Lakers, that type of attitude. And I don't want to criticize Jeannie too much because I think I genuinely like Jeannie Buss. I think she's a nice person, but it's emails like this where you go, oh, that's not how you want to refer. And yes, this was an email that was supposed to stay private. It became public. Okay. But that's not how you want to refer to other NBA franchises. Okay. And maybe she calls him Balls in a loving way. It's a joking way. It's a nickname. That's fine. Right. But didn't he see what we did to my brother? Jim Buss tried to take the Lakers away from Jeannie. She responded by ousting him. Right? When she let go of Jim and Mitch, he responded by trying to take control of the team from her, and that didn't work out. It got tied up in court, and that got thrown out. And Jeannie was left as the sole person standing. Okay, there can be only one, and it was Jeannie Buss. She's the Highlander, and so she's standing atop the Lakers' throne at this point. But I don't think that's something that you want to throw out there, because it makes you come across as unsympathetic. As much as the Lakers fans have this disdain for Jim Buss, and that's understandable, given the way things went while he was in control of basketball operations. But still, I don't think you want to come off this way. And again, this wasn't supposed to become, public or anything like that, but he will have nothing but Clippers basketball. Whoopee. Basically taking a shot at the Clippers and their franchise, and that it's not all that interesting and things like that. It comes across as a little bit arrogant. It just does. Right? And I don't think that's something that the Lakers want out there. I don't think that's the vibe you want other teams to have of the Lakers, because that just fuels this anti-Lakers agenda. Because again, I've said this before, but let's face it, 29 teams in the NBA do not want to see the Lakers successful. Badly. In fact, to the point where they will not trade with the Lakers. They won't talk with. If it's between the Lakers and another team, they will go with another team. We saw this with the Suns and Trevor Ariza. They got heat for helping the Lakers by letting Tyson Chandler go. So when it came time to trade Trevor Ariza, they made the decision that they were not going to send him to the Lakers because they didn't want to deal with that pushback. Teams don't want to be caught helping the Lakers. They are that team right now. Okay, there is a Lakers tax. If you are trading with the Lakers, you have to win the trade. You have to make them pay more for something, unless that something is somewhat inconsequential. That's the mindset in the NBA right now, and it's partially because of things like this. Again, teams do not want to see the Lakers be successful, and so I don't think this is a positive. No, the Lakers aren't going to Inglewood, by the way. That's not happening. Staples Center is still very nice. It's a nice place. Okay, they talked about maybe getting rid of the Forum or rebuilding it or just renovating it, whatever. They were going to do all these things. Obviously, it never happened. It isn't something that's going to happen, but the idea was floated out there in order to potentially get the Lakers to beat the Clippers to the punch and go to Inglewood and all of that. Not happening, but still, the fact that this came out and the Lakers, it just doesn't portray them in a very positive light. Okay? It's just another miscue, I think. So unfortunate that this did come out. All right, I want to get into this past summer, the way the Lakers built their roster, why all of this matters, what it matters for moving forward. Because, look, you can't understand. This is one of my favorite lyrics from a Rise Against song called Satellites. The line says, "You can't understand what lays ahead unless you understand the past." It's so important that we look at where we've been in order to understand where we're going, right? So I want to get into that. Okay, I want to talk about the decision-making process this last summer, what decisions were made and why and all of that. But first, before I get there, I need to talk real quick about Harry's Razors. Now, Harry's Razors, it's near and dear to my heart because they were actually, when I first started the show, Harry's was our first sponsor ever for the Lakers Nation podcast. So near and dear to me, Harry's Razors. And so I've had Harry's Razors for a long time. And in fact, Harry's just sent me a new kit of razors, and my parents happen to be visiting, happen to be hanging out here, and so I had extra razors because I've already had so many Harry's razors that I've had over the years, And so I had this new kit come in, and I said, "Hey, Dad, here, do you want this? I just got this new razor kit from Harry's. They're one of our sponsors. Why don't you give it a try?" And I'd recommended them to him in the past, and he always said, "No, I've got my razor that I stick with. I like what I like, that type of thing." And finally he said, "Okay." Well, sure enough, a day goes by. They go back home, and I get a text from my dad saying, "Wow, Harry's razors are really, really good." And I said, "Hey, I've been telling you, these things are good. I wouldn't be on here talking about them if they were terrible. I literally use Harry's razors every single day. They're great." And so I'm glad that I get to share something like this. And the cool thing is, right, they have a very, very simple, clean design. They're high quality, durable blades. They're a fair price. It's really just good stuff. And you get, because you're listening to the show, you get a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. That's a weighted ergonomic handle, a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, a rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. That cover, guys, I can tell you, that cover, it comes in handy. Okay, whenever I travel, that helps so much. Like, it's one of those things that if I suddenly didn't have it now, I don't know what I would do. I would completely miss it. It's incredibly handy. Listeners of my show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/nation. Okay, so go check them out. Trust me, I use them every day. Now my dad uses Harry's razors every day. Everybody I've told, they're great razors. Go check it out. Okay, harrys.com/nation. Redeem your offer. Make sure you let them know that I sent you. You guys get a great product. You use that code, harrys.com/nation, and you're also supporting a sponsor that has supported us for a long time and that we're super appreciative of. All right, let's talk about the moves the Lakers made this past summer. So here's my overall point here for what's been going on in the world of the Lakers. The Lakers did a really good job this last summer at the home run. They got LeBron. I didn't think that was going to happen. I said on this show many times that if Paul George said no, if Paul George isn't coming, that means probably no LeBron James, because LeBron isn't going to come to the Lakers by himself. Well, it turns out he did. He came to the Lakers without another star, and credit to the Lakers, credit to Magic Johnson for putting themselves in this situation to be able to do something like that, to where LeBron would see that, hey, moving forward, they've got enough opportunities or options in order to bring in other pieces and make this thing work. Okay, credit to the Lakers, credit to Magic for closing that deal and getting LeBron James, right? However, the rest of it didn't work. Just about every other move they made did not work at all. It was bad. And you can look at this two ways. You can look at this and say, well, look, they got the big thing right. They got LeBron. That's the hard part. They got the hard part right. They can fix this. This is fine. The things that they messed up on are more minor things. That's true. But the problem with that thinking is this. If we go baseball analogy, right? They hit the home run, but the singles they didn't get. They didn't get the singles. But here's the thing. Those singles, they add up, right? You hit enough singles, you're going to start scoring runs. Okay, no, it's not as flashy. It's not as exciting as a big home run swing. Okay, it's not like Justin Turner going yard. Okay, but you hit enough singles, you get Corey Seager to step up and hit enough into the gap and get on first base. That matters. By the way, quick shout out to Dodger Blue, right? So if you're able to do that, those add up. They add up quickly. So you can look at this and you can say, okay, Ivica Zubac's, letting him go. All right, we missed a single. No biggie there. Right? We signed Lance Stevenson instead of some other player. Okay, hey, we missed on another single. Okay. But they compound. You add these up and suddenly you get what we got this season. You get a team that just isn't that good. And the singles really are important. These small moves. Okay, look at the Brooklyn Nets. They rebuilt their franchise after that terrible trade that robbed them of draft picks and set up the Boston Celtics. They rebuilt their franchise around singles, around hitting singles, minor moves here and there, just working the margins, getting a few moves done at a time. Nothing big, nothing crazy, but now they have put themselves back into the playoffs. They're going to be an Eastern Conference playoff team. These things do matter. So the first decision the Lakers had to make was Ivica Zubac or Thomas Bryant. Now, they could have kept both of them if they wanted to, but they knew in order to free up the max amount of cap space, they probably need to let one go. They opted on Thomas Bryant, which was a surprise. Okay, it really was. Because Thomas Bryant seemed to fit what the Lakers wanted to do a little bit better. He's better at running the floor than Zubac, and he's got the ability to step out and shoot from the three-point line. But they decided to let Thomas Bryant go and stick with Ivica Zubac. Again, very minor decision, right? Looking back now, we can say they should have kept both. There's no question. Thomas Bryant got picked up by the Washington Wizards, has spent a decent amount of time starting for them. In fact, just the other night, he put up 20 and 10. Okay, in fact, I think it was 21 and 10. Thomas Bryant. The Lakers took him in the second round summer before last. They were able to get a hold of him. They saw him. He was killing it in the G League. They let him go. This has been a consistent theme with the Lakers. Not understanding their young talent, or at the very least, undervaluing their young talent. Their draft guys have done a tremendous job. Jesse Buss and the Lakers scouts have done an amazing job of finding talent in the draft. They have. Okay, there's no arguing that. Okay, there was a story that came out the other day that about Bill Burtka and how he demanded that the Lakers draft Kyle Kuzma. That he essentially, and this was from the story, that he essentially yelled at everyone until they selected Kyle Kuzma. That anytime they discussed draft picks, Bill Burtka went on, I don't want to say a rampage, but made sure that people knew that Kyle Kuzma should be the guy they should pick, period. Okay, the Lakers know how to draft. All right, they do, especially late in the draft. You can say, hey, they should have taken someone else instead of Lonzo. Okay, fair enough. You can say, oh, they shouldn't have drafted D'Angelo. They should have taken Porzingis or whoever. Fine. But overall, the Lakers have done very, very well in the draft. Right? The problem has been that the new Lakers front office, I'm talking about Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, has devalued those players, or maybe not understood the value that they have. Okay? And we see that here with letting Thomas Bryant go. If you knew what you had, if you knew that, hey, Thomas Bryant's going to go to another team and he's going to start a number of games and he's going to show a lot of potential and he's a young player that's going to get better. And I think that's one thing that the Lakers front office doesn't do a very good job of grasping, is that these young guys are going to get better. They're going to improve, right? They're not going to just stagnate and they aren't a finished product right now. And they treat them as though they are. They treat them as though they're not going to get better. So a more forward-thinking way of looking at it would have been to actually keep Zubac and Bryant and know that, hey, look, maybe there's not enough minutes to go around for both of them, but it would have made a lot of sense to at least develop them. See what you've got. See what they turn into, because you know what? At this point in the season right now, the Lakers sure could use another big like that. Now, yeah, they grabbed Mo Wagner in the draft. Maybe you think Mo Wagner is going to eat up any minutes that Thomas Bryant would have gotten, and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't care so much when you're looking at young talent about fit. I get it. Hey, a LeBron James team, you want to try to build a team around him and all of that. Even though LeBron wasn't a Laker when they made the decision to let go of Thomas Bryant, you look at talent. You don't worry. Fit is very much secondary. You look at talent, and you have to understand the value of that talent, and that's where I think they've come up short, because their next big decision. So they get LeBron, right? Shortly after free agency begins, skies part, and next thing you know, the Lakers are signing LeBron James. He announces he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker. Clutch Sports puts out the press release saying that they are making the jump to Los Angeles. Great. Okay, celebrate. Everybody's good. But then the moves they made from there on were very questionable. First of all, I'll never forget this moment. So I was on the air with CBS. CBS, we were doing a bunch of shows this last summer, talking about how the Lakers were going to adjust to building a team around LeBron James. And now that they had LeBron, how that was going to change things for Lakers, all the standard stuff. And I'm on the air and I was answering a question and going into a little bit of the detail about landing LeBron James and what it meant for Los Angeles and all that kind of stuff. And the host of the show cuts me off. And he says, wait, Trevor, wait. And I stopped and I thought, okay, maybe we lost the feed or something like that. He goes, hey, we just got news. The Lakers just released Julius Randle. And sure enough, I check it out. And yeah, they had done that. We had to restart the show and redo it, re-record the whole segment we were doing. And even though we were live. And so after we finished up, but I had to kind of think on my feet and say, okay, well, if they release Julius Randle, that means something else is coming. Something else is going to happen, right? If they're releasing Julius Randle in his cap hold, you're freeing up room. That means something else is coming. Randle had like a $12 million cap hold. I said something else is going to happen. Okay, they've got something ready to go. Otherwise, they wouldn't just let go of Julius Randle, who is a restricted free agent. Then we find out that that other thing they have coming is Rajon Rondo. Essentially, what the Lakers did was they allowed Randle to become an unrestricted free agent, and he went to the Pelicans and signed a 2-year deal worth about $18 million, the second year being a player option. So $9 million roughly per year. Then they signed, with that space that was opened up, they signed Rondo to a $9 million contract. You don't do that. You don't. I was confused when it happened, and I was already booked for an ESPN show in New Orleans. I was going to be hopping on with them before the trade went down. And it just happened to be that Randle winds up going to New Orleans, and I was going on in New Orleans about an hour or 2 hours after the trade was announced, or after, not the trade, the signing was announced. And they couldn't believe it. They could not believe it, and I couldn't either. Their first question to me was, what are the Lakers doing? Why are they letting go of Julius? This guy is a 20 and 10 player. He was probably their best player last season. What's wrong with him? They thought there must be something wrong with Julius Randle in order for the Lakers just to let him go. And I had to say, look, you guys are going to love him. You're going to love Julius Randle. You're going to love what he brings. It was short-sighted. Again, I get it. Hey, if you're the Lakers and you're looking at your roster and you think, okay, we've got LeBron James. He's going to play some 4. We've got Kyle Kuzma. He's going to play some 4. Maybe you don't believe in Julius Randle at center or something like that, even though he was fine their season before. Maybe you don't feel like you can offer him a big enough deal. The bottom line is that Julius Randle was a restricted free agent. By that point, money had all but dried up. There was nowhere else he could go. Nobody was going to give him a ridiculous offer or anything like that. There was no risk of that happening. And yes, you can say that Randle may not have signed with the Lakers for that $9 million. He was probably asking for more. And that's fine. Let's say he's asking for $12 million. Let's say he's asking, which was rumored. Say he's asking for what his cap hold was. Okay, you take that. You take that happily, even if he's asking for that second-year player option. Because here's the thing. The second year is what killed the deal for the Lakers. Because they want to make sure that they have cap room free for this summer, for 2019. They want to have cap space to go chase after stars, and they were worried if we give Randle that player option for the second year and he picks it up, then we're not going to have cap space. That's fair, but it's also incredibly short-sighted, and it's also punishing yourself. Because look, if, let's say, that Randle gets hurt, yes, that's a possibility, but if you're so nervous about that, Julius Randle at even $12 million is a bargain. Julius Randle at $9 million is a bargain. He is a positive contract. You spent a 7th overall pick on Julius Randle a few years back. You can't let him walk out the door. Okay? You keep him on as a positive asset, even if you have to tell him, look, Julius, you may not get the exact role that you want right here. We may not be able to start you. You might have to play some center. We'll find a way to work minutes into the rotation, but maybe you don't start, right? And we will search for a trade so we get some value for you. Okay, you can tell him that. And then you do that. If you're worried about, oh, he's going to get hurt or he's going to sulk or whatever, on that contract, he's a bargain. Teams will be interested. You can extract some assets. You can work out a trade. You can figure that out. Okay, if you just release him, you get nothing. You get nothing. And that's the one thing that you cannot do in the NBA. You cannot allow young assets to walk away with no return. Okay, even if it's you just hit a single, you get something. You get an extra draft pick, right? Whatever it is. Okay, maybe you get a protected first rounder, if that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you get a couple of seconds and you get a young player. Whatever you get for Julius Randle, it's better than nothing. The Lakers willingly chose to get nothing. You're punishing yourself ahead of time. You're saying, oh, well, he could opt in. He could pick up that contract, and then we have less money next summer, and then we can't go get a star. Sure, that's possible. That's unlikely. Julius has a value that's more than $9 million. It's extremely unlikely that he opts into that contract. And again, if you're so worried about it, fine. You sign him to a new deal, and then you trade him down the line. As soon as he's trade eligible in December, you trade him. You get something for him. You don't let him walk away for nothing. And yet that's the route the Lakers went. Okay, rather than maybe taking the negative of, oh, if he gets hurt and then he picks it up, then our cap space is in trouble and then we can't go get another star. Rather than risking that, they went ahead and took a big negative of letting a young asset who is a potential 20 and 10 player, who is probably the best player on the team that season, walk away. You take a possible negative and you switched it out for a certain negative. You guaranteed that that's a negative. That hurts. Now look, if there was somebody out there, if there was a player, let's say Paul George suddenly decided, no, don't give me the max, give me 1 year, $9 million, right? Then okay, you could say, look, obviously bummer to let Randall walk away, but we're going to take this money and we're going to give it to Paul George. That's a clear upgrade. That's going to work out for us. Great. Okay. That's a rare situation though. That didn't happen. Instead, they got nothing. Okay. They used the money to bring in Rajon Rondo. Right? So let's look at that decision, that thought. They used the space that they could have used on Randall's contract, they used to get Rondo. So on the surface, forget the Julius Randle thing for a moment. It's not a bad target, Rajon Rondo. Yes, he's got this negative reputation right now because his defense has been so poor and all these other things. But Lonzo Ball had been hurt. Okay. There, and you could see where maybe he could use a veteran mentor. Heck, he was having surgery that offseason. They didn't even know if he'd be ready to start the season. So there is some pressure for the Lakers to find a point guard. Okay. There weren't many point guards on the market. Right. So you got to factor that in too. Rondo was probably the best of them. He certainly has the most experience of them. He can think the game at a different level. LeBron James respects him, all of it. All these are reasons why it's okay to target Rajon Rondo. It's not okay to pay Rajon Rondo $9 million. He was making $4 million the season before. All right. And yes, every offseason changes and the market changes and all of that, but it's not okay to pay him that much money. Okay, look, if the Lakers kept Randall and then they targeted Rondo with, say, Michael Beasley level money, something like that, all right, I could buy it. Like, going after Rondo in and of itself isn't a bad decision. The bad decision was allowing Randall to walk away and using that space in order to spend it on Rondo. That's where the Lakers front office, it feels like they need somebody who's done this before. I think that's where the inexperience shows. Somebody has to say, so wait, Randall's going to walk away. And the rumor that came out this week was that the coaching staff was asking the Lakers, hey, bring back Brook Lopez, bring back Julius Randle, please. And Magic and Pelinka said, not going to happen. Somebody's got to step in. Somebody has to step in and say, yeah, that's probably not the best idea. Right? And I think the frustration for fans is that if you asked any Lakers fan, right, any random Laker, you go pick out some random guy on the street wearing a Lakers jersey and you say, hey, would you take Julius Randle or Rajon Rondo? Their answer would be Julius Randle every single time. Anybody could tell you that would be better. Look, hey, worst case scenario, right? If you tell Randle, hey, we're going to match any offer for you. You're restricted. If you don't want to sign with us, take the qualifying offer. What's your worst case there? He takes the qualifying offer and you get Julius Randle at one season for a little over $5 million. That's your worst case scenario. Isn't that better than a season of Rajon Rondo at $9 million? I think so. The Lakers allowed themselves, they had the advantage of restricted free agency and they let it go. They said, nope, no thanks. We don't want that advantage. They let it go so that they could bring in Rajon Rondo. Again, not a bad guy to target given the circumstances, but the cost isn't worth it. Again, they're undervaluing their young players. They're not understanding what they can bring. Right? That's something that's a concern heading into next summer. They signed Lance Stevenson because LeBron respects him or whatever that was. Okay, they signed Lance Stevenson. Okay, again, on the surface, in a vacuum, okay. There's probably some better options you could go after. Some shooters that they could have gone after, but they signed Lance Stevenson. They signed JaVale McGee. Fine. Hey, I'm on board with that. JaVale McGee for a veteran minimum, no problem. Heck, bring him back. If he's willing to play for the vet minimum, bring him back next year. No problems with that. That's a decent value. Okay, and that's something the team struggled at, is understanding value. But that's good value for JaVale McGee. He can do some good things. He can block some shots. He can be a deterrent. Is he a starting center? No, probably not. He looked really good the first month of the season. Really good. Made the Lakers look very smart. But then since then, he regressed. Unfortunately, he got sick. He had pneumonia, right? And since then, his game has really regressed. When the JaVale McGee signing came down, I thought, okay, the Lakers bring back Brook Lopez. This makes some sense. This makes some real sense. You'll have a two-headed monster at center. Not a great monster, but Brook Lopez and JaVale McGee, that's a center tandem I can get behind. And we find out that they didn't want to bring Brook Lopez back. Brook Lopez signed with the Bucks and is probably the best signing of the summer. The Bucks are going to contend for a championship. And they got Brook Lopez for a little over $3 million. What did the Lakers do with that $3 million that they could have spent on Brook Lopez? They gave it to Michael Beasley. And this was their reasoning. This was per Ramona Shelburne. They reasoned that Michael Beasley, at a cheaper cost, could replace Julius Randle. Michael Beasley could be a small ball 5 that he could play center behind JaVale McGee. Aside from being left-handed, there aren't a whole lot of similarities between Julius Randle and Michael Beasley. There's just not. And that's not to disparage Michael Beasley at all. Julius Randle is a power player. He's a player who can bang inside. He showed just enough explosiveness last summer to be somewhat of a deterrent at the rim. Last season. Michael Beasley's not that guy. And you know what? Beasley is better than people would think he would be. Knowing coming out of college, he was a 3-4 tweener kind of player. To think that he's able to even slide down and play any minutes at the 5 is a little bit surprising. He's a little bit better at it than you would expect, but he's certainly not Randall's level. To expect Beasley to come in to think, hey, it's okay to let Brook Lopez go because we're going to run a small center in our second unit, and it's not going to be Julius Randle, it's going to be Michael Beasley because Beasley's going to be able to do those things. Again, that's where somebody needs to step in and say, are we sure this is a good idea? Because it's not. Especially when, if you're looking at this, the Lakers lack shooting. Brook Lopez would have helped that out. And the Lakers on the season have been better when they've had a bigger center in there. I'm talking JaVale McGee, Tyson Chandler when he was good, Ivica Zubac before they traded him, as painful as that was. Okay, the Lakers have been better with those bigger centers. So had they gone after Lopez, that would have made a lot of sense, right? Now, you can make the argument that, hey, if JaVale knows that Brook Lopez is sticking around, maybe he doesn't sign. Maybe that opportunity for him isn't there, and so he sees that he's going to have a major competition for the starting minutes. Maybe they got JaVale on the deal they did as a veteran minimum by saying, hey, you're going to be our starter. Okay, that's totally fair, and that may be the case. And maybe Lopez wasn't as eager to come back if he knew that he was going to have to fight JaVale McGee for minutes. Okay, that could also be a factor. Okay, so I want to throw that out there to make sure I'm fair with this. But in any event, didn't make a lot of sense, those signings, given the alternatives. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, $12 million. Look, it's probably an attachment to the LeBron James deal, but KCP hasn't lived up to it. Was he worth $12 million? Probably not, but you know what? People forget how good he was last season at the end of the year. He was really, really good. And he shot the 3-ball well, and so it seemed like he would be a good fit. Hasn't panned out. It's still an overpay, but at least I could understand. Hey, it's part of the Rich Paul package, all that kind of stuff. I would expect that KCP is probably not going to stick around. The last thing we need to get to, the Ivica Zubac trade. So they made the decision to keep let go of Thomas Bryant, keep Ivica Zubac, and they've decided, hey, we'll keep more of a traditional center in Zubac. That's fine. Okay, that's fine in a vacuum, right? But in doing so, they then didn't play him much at the beginning. To be fair, he got sick at the beginning of the season, so he took a little while to get up to speed. Then he played really well. Broke out on Christmas Day, had a great game against the Warriors, was looking good, actually looked like the best center on the team. Trade deadline comes, and they trade him. They trade him to the Clippers, and I still have yet to hear any justification for doing this. There is no reason to make this trade. They wanted to get more shooting, which again, they didn't prioritize shooting over the summer. And by the way, guys, I'm not throwing in the Svi Mykhailiuk trade for Reggie Bullock because I don't fault them in that trade. I think that was fine. No big deal there. But trading who is probably your best center on the roster at the moment in Ivica Zubac, who's a young guy who can protect the rim, for Mike Muscala, who is older, more expensive, and can't protect the rim, but can shoot a little bit from outside. Again, that's not understanding value. You're giving up value in order to get a player that you perceive as a better fit. And that's been a constant theme here, right? The Lakers did the same thing with Randall and Rondo. They thought Randall doesn't fit anymore because we've got LeBron now. Let's go find a point guard because that's what we really need. And let's forget about how valuable this young power forward that we have really is. Let's worry just about fit. And then the fit didn't work out that well. Same thing here, right? They said, hey, Zubac has been great, but he's probably been too good. I don't know if we can re-sign him. How do you know that? Muscala is going to be a free agent as well. Even if you decide that Mike Muscala is the guy you really need, and targeting Mike Muscala isn't a bad thing, right? Stretch bigs are a need. You still have Mo Wagner who can play pretty much the same position and do similar things, but whatever, Mike Muscala, that's not a bad guy to go after, but it's understanding value. Ivica Zubac is more valuable than Mike Muscala. And you gave Zubac to the Clippers, to the team they were chasing to get a playoff spot. You gave them the rim protector they needed. Again, this is where someone should have stepped in and said, guys, this is not a good idea. I think just about any fan on the street would have told them, hey, trading Ivica Zubac, even as down as fans were on him last summer, trading him now for Mike Muscala is not a good idea. That's a problem. Okay, that's where the frustration from fans come in because they look at it and they say, gosh, anybody could see this from the outside. Why did they not see it from the inside? Why does the Lakers front office not see these things? Okay, so the Zubac trade wound up being a big disaster. In fact, a piece on The Athletic recently came out by Jovan Buha where Patrick Beverley said thank you to the Lakers for the trade. And was explaining how much better their defense has gotten with Ivica Zubac. It's certainly painful to think of, and frustrating. So when you add all of that up, everything that I've just discussed, all of these singles, okay, Zubac, letting Thomas Bryant go, letting Randall go, and signing Rondo instead. By the way, as of right now, Alex Caruso is putting up better stats overall. His net rating is much, much better than Rajon Rondo. He's really been struggling. So add that to the mix. Letting Lopez go, thinking that Beasley could replace Randall as a small ball backup 5. Madness. Just madness. And we looked at these, we said these are questionable, but I think everyone kind of had their fingers crossed and hoped that LeBron would erase some of these mistakes. But instead, LeBron really needed the extra help, and these mistakes became more magnified. That's what happened. LeBron gets hurt, and the mistakes that were made here in building the roster become a bigger deal than they would have been had he not been hurt. Okay, I can confidently say that if the Lakers didn't make these mistakes, okay, let's say there's an alternate universe out there, and the Lakers kept Lonzo Ball, and they've got, let's say at the 2, they have KCP, they have Hart, whatever, they have Ingram, they have LeBron, they have Randall, maybe you bring Kuzma off the bench or whatever. Okay, you keep Julius Randle, you bring back Brook Lopez, so let's say you start him at the 5. Okay, you don't make all of these mistakes. Let's say you make the KCP thing because of Rich Paul. But you keep Randall, you keep Brook Lopez, maybe you let Alex Caruso be your backup point guard, you don't bring in Rondo. I'm fairly confident this Lakers team is making the playoffs this season, even with the injuries. Even with the injuries they've suffered, this is where the singles really added up to hurt them. Okay, that's how this season has played out. And that is where the team needs to get better for this next summer. Okay, so again, I know there was a lot of negativity, but I wanted to get into what the whole thought process was behind those things. And I know I talked a lot about it, but this is stuff that I've been breaking down in my head for quite a while now. Quick break, and then we're going to talk about how they can fix things this summer. Guys, we need to talk about betonline.ag. March Madness is upon us, and it's another huge month in sports across the NBA and NCAA. There's only one place to get in on all the action. That's betonline.ag. You can support this podcast by going to clnsmedia.com/LeBron and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% sign-up bonus. Again, that's CLNS50. Go to clnsmedia.com/LeBron. Use that code CLNS50. Get a 50% sign-up bonus for betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. Okay, go check them out. All right, let's talk about how to fix these things. And hey, apologies guys, this show's already gone on longer than I meant to, but you get me talking Lakers basketball. This is what happens. This is why I do this, because I can talk Lakers basketball all day. But let's talk about how you fix this. Okay? I just went through all the negative things, all the mistakes the Lakers made, and it's not fun wading through that muck. It's not. It's not fun dealing with all that negativity. I want to talk about positive things. I want to talk about how great the Lakers can be, right? I grew up on Showtime. I was cheering like crazy with Kobe and Shaq and all these great teams and the Kobe Pau duo and all that stuff. We want to return to that. So what can they do? Well, the one thing that's really good about where the Lakers are at is they kind of get a do-over. Not completely. Look, Randall's gone, Zubats is gone. You can't fix that. Okay, there's no going back. We don't have a DeLorean. We can't go back and fix those things. It is what it is. But they'll have enough cap space, and they're getting rid of these guys are all on 1-year contracts. That's part of the reason why they signed the guys they did, because these were guys who were willing to sign 1-year deals. So now they have a chance to fix it. Okay, they're going to have cap space. They're going to have enough for a max level free agent, and they can kind of add some pieces around that person. So there's a few options that the Lakers have here. Okay, option 1 is to land a star, another star to play alongside LeBron James. All right, who's out there? Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker. Those are all guys expected to get max level contracts. Okay, max deal, max years, all of that. They're going to expect that kind of an offer. Okay, if you get one of those guys, that's a big step towards towards pushing this franchise back where it needs to be. And here's the beauty part. We talk all about about landing Anthony Davis and how great it would be to pair Anthony Davis with LeBron. And it would be. Anthony Davis and LeBron, 2 top 5 players in the NBA, put them together, that's deadly. Okay, but you're probably going to have to give up a lot of young talent in order to get Anthony Davis. Signing a free agent might even be a bigger home run, because here's what you get to do. You keep your young talent. What a concept. You keep your young talent and you land a top flight free agent, right? You still have Brandon Ingram. Gosh, let's hope he gets better. Okay, let's hope he recovers from that DVT, deep vein thrombosis. You keep Lonzo Ball, who is playing incredible basketball, and I still say is an ideal point guard to put alongside LeBron James if he can start knocking down those threes, because the way he doesn't care if the ball's in his hands or not. Great stuff, right? Kyle Kuzma, you keep him. You keep Josh Hart, who's been hurt a lot of this season, but can be an ideal role player. Okay, you hang on to these young pieces and you land a star, then you're going to be able to go out and pick up with your minimum contracts. You're going to be able to pick up your veteran ring chaser guys. Okay, you build your team around that. Let's say it's LeBron and Kyrie, rides again, which I think a Kyrie and Lonzo backcourt would work just fine. But let's say it's LeBron and Kyrie. You have those two. You still have the young players. Maybe you still try to ship them out in a trade to bring in more win now pieces. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just keep them and say, let's roll with this. Okay, you land another star and you are right back in the mix. You need to make some better choices with the players that you bring in. Okay, the veteran guys that are willing to take less in order to be on a contender, you need to be smart about who you bring in. You got to find shooters. You got to find guys who can play defense. Okay, you do those things and you're going to be in good shape. That's got to be option 1 for the Lakers. Okay, option 2 is to trade for a star. So let's say that free agency comes and goes and everybody goes elsewhere. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving both go to New York. Let's say Kawhi Leonard, because the Clippers have been kind of sort of stalking him, he ends up going to the Clippers. You've got Jimmy Butler stays in Philly, and all the other, Klay stays in Golden State, and all of that. That all shakes out that way. The Lakers get nobody. So your other option is to trade for a star. So let's say that maybe Bradley Beal, maybe you can shake him free from Washington. Okay, or let's say Anthony Davis. That's fine, but you have to be careful, because you have to understand that if you trade for a guy like that, let's say the Washington Wizards want Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma in exchange for Bradley Beal. Okay, reasonable. I suppose Bradley Beal is a really good player. Reasonable deal. The problem is that in order to take on Bradley Beal's contract, you're using some of your cap space in order to absorb that salary. Okay, you can make that happen, but the Lakers only have so much salary to send back. So if you bring in a Bradley Beal, you're not just losing Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma, you're also losing the opportunity to sign a few other guys. Now, again, we're assuming the big-time free agents are already gone if the Lakers are making a trade like that. But in any event, you'd be losing some cap space. So you'd have to factor that in too, because maybe you're sacrificing the ability to go after some mid-tier guys. Maybe like a DeMarcus Cousins or a Chris Middleton, who actually could still get maxed out. But players like that, of that caliber. So your second option is to trade for another star if you can't just get one in free agency. Best thing to do is get a star in free agency and then call it good from there. You can build your team. You can either make a trade with your young players or you can keep them, build your team around that. Okay. Option 2, though, if you don't get any of those guys, you can maybe find a trade. Find something that works. Maybe somebody shakes free from another team and you're able to get something done. The bottom line is you need to bring in another player to help out LeBron James, but you got to be careful with it. You can't have, look, the perception around the league is that the Lakers got fleeced by the Clippers, right? Bad enough that the Lakers got fleeced, but that they got fleeced by the Clippers, that stings, right? In the Zubac deal. In the end, though, Zubac is going to be a free agent. Maybe he stays with the Clippers, maybe he doesn't. Okay. It's not as damaging as it could be. If you make a big trade, though, right? You go after a star level player. Not like an Ivica Zubac level player. You don't make a small move for guys that are borderline starters, maybe coming off your bench. You go after a star and you get fleeced in that deal, you're in big trouble. Now, the Lakers have shown that they can make smart moves. They've shown it, right? I mean, hey, the Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson deal for Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye and a first-round pick all day, every day. Okay, no, they didn't keep Isaiah Thomas. No, they didn't keep Channing Frye. Okay, the cap space that they gained from it, you can say maybe that didn't really help them land LeBron or whatever. That's still a deal you do. Jordan Clarkson had a big contract. It was a good move. Okay, let's put it that way. It was a good trade. The Lou Williams trade, looking back now, yes, we would love to have Lou Williams back on the Lakers at this moment. But at the time, it made a lot of sense. And hey, they got Josh Hart out of it and Thomas Bryant. Unfortunately, then they decided to let Thomas Bryant go. But in any event, the Lakers have shown they can make good trades, but in this case, they got fleeced with the Zubac deal. So they have to make sure that if they're going to make a deal, that they don't get fleeced. Don't make a deal where you come out on the short end and then you've got LeBron and whoever the star is, Bradley Beal or whoever it is, CJ McCollum, whoever they're able to shake free, and nothing else. And you have to give up all your assets because you're desperate to put another star or quasi-star around LeBron James, just to show LeBron, hey, we're making the effort. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to be negotiating from a point of desperation. And so that's the danger there with option 2. Maybe they can still get it done. Option 3, in order to rebuild this team, let's say they don't get anybody. Okay, option 1 doesn't work. They don't land a star. They're not able to work out a reasonable trade for a star. Option 3, what do? Well, you've got the young kids, you've got a bunch of cap space, okay, and you've got LeBron. Those are the things that you've got on your team. So when you're looking to fill in the gaps around these guys, this is where you've got that cap room. You can use that to your advantage. Okay, you've got enough cap space. That's where maybe you look to overpay some players in the short term and keep them on a shorter deal in order to get them in. Some guys who will fit well. Okay, I'm talking about 1, maybe 2-year contracts. Maybe you consider going to a second year in order to increase the quality of the player that you're going to get, knowing that a 2-year deal isn't that hard to trade. In a pinch, let's say in 2020, you need to trade a contract and it's a 2-year deal. So that's the benefit of taking on a 2-year deal. You're probably going to get a higher quality player by offering up a little bit more money, a little bit more security. But the question is, will the Lakers be willing to do that? Or will they just take what I call option 4, which is kick the can down the road once again? Now, you're going to have to pay Brandon Ingram in the summer of 2020, so that's an issue potentially. But are you going to then just give out 1-year contracts again? And then that means guys that you could get maybe on 2-year deals. I'm talking about some of these guys like DeAndre Jordan, Nikola Mirotic, heck, Patrick Beverley. I think I'd like him a lot more if he was in purple and gold. Terrence Ross, guys like that. Yes, they're going to be looking for long-term deals, but maybe if you offer them enough, These are quality players that you could bring in that would help you out. Maybe you get one of those guys on, or a couple of those guys on 2-year deals, and you use your cap space this way, knowing then that if you need next summer to free up some space, they're probably movable. You can probably move these contracts because they'll only have a year left on them. There's some interesting guys out there. Heck, Ricky Rubio, Danny Green, Gerald Green, our old friend Ed Davis. Okay, Bogdan Bogdanovic from the Indiana Pacers is going to be out there. Darren Collison. There's some decent players that are out there. Nikola Vucevic, I think he's going to command a 4-year deal. He's been really, really good this season. I think people have been underrating him. But there's a lot of guys out there that you could potentially pick up that can make this team a lot better. Kind of like, and I hate to say it, but kind of like what the Clippers have done. They've taken players who aren't stars, but they're a little bit better than a standard role player, and they've integrated them all, and it's made their team better as a whole. That's another approach the Lakers could take. Now, no, that's not as good as option 1, getting that star. Probably not as good as option 2, trading for a star, as long as it's a good trade. But it's a way to put yourself back in the playoff mix. Because as Jazz said recently on our latest Lakers Nation postgame show, one of the things that people forget is that the West isn't getting worse next year. It's getting better. The Sacramento Kings are going to be better when their young players continue to improve. The Denver Nuggets are going to be getting Michael Porter Jr. They're already one of the best teams in the West, and they're going to get him integrated into their system. The Dallas Mavericks are getting Kristaps Porzingis next season to play with them. They're going to be better. All of these teams are going to be better. Yeah, you can say Memphis probably trades Mike Conley. Maybe they take a step back. If the Suns get somebody, they could move up, right? If they get Zion in the draft, they can become a tougher team. The West is going to get better, so you're going to have to do some things, get some of these pieces in order to stay in this race. And I do think that if Lakers stay healthy and they make smart moves, they can be right back into title contention. And if they get the right guys in, let's say they get Kawhi, they convince him to come on board, that changes things very, very quickly. And all the negativity that I was talking about before can turn around. They have that ability. They have that opportunity. That's what the cap space they've cleared affords them. It gives them the chance to fix this. But no question, this last summer was a disaster. Okay, LeBron James was great. Every other move that they made was a mistake to some degree. So they've got a lot to figure out. I hope that they can, and I hope that they can figure out a way to salvage things this summer. Because again, they can turn this around. Rob Pelinka is a smart guy. Okay, but I think that somebody needs to be there to sort of check up on some of their work here, because a lot of the decisions that they made didn't really make sense this last year. And let's, before I go, let me mention that real quick. You know, the overall decision that was made was to try to surround LeBron James with ball handlers, because before he had shooters, and that didn't really work. In the finals, it didn't work against Golden State the season before, and so the Lakers decided to try to zig where other people zagged. That's fair. That's fine. Okay, I can understand why they would do that. Looking back now, it was clearly a mistake. Okay, but you can see what would give them that temptation to go that route. Okay, they wanted to be a tough, stingy defensive team that would get out in transition and run, and that some of the burden would be taken off of LeBron James. I guess that's fine for a blueprint for a team, but there's a reason why LeBron's always had shooters around him. There's a reason why these things have worked. It's fine wanting to be a better defensive team, but the route that they took, it just didn't work. You could see it wasn't going to happen. At one point, they were 4th overall in the West, and they didn't really get a fair shake at it, right? It could have been better than it was. It certainly shouldn't have been this big of a disaster as we saw, but I think at least they see now that the blueprint for this last season, it wasn't going to work out. So they're going to have to come up with some solutions. Ideally, you find shooters who can also play defense, and then you can do a little bit of both. You can get out and run. You can punish teams with your outside shooting who are collapsing on LeBron James, all of that. We'll see if they can approach this summer with a better game plan. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there. Those of you who listened through this whole thing, we're over the hour mark, but so much to talk about in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Appreciate you guys joining me. Don't forget to head over to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. For all your breaking Lakers news, follow us on social media at Lakers Nation Official on Instagram, at Lakers Nation on Facebook and Twitter. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane and on Instagram at Trevor Lane NBA. Another big shout out to our sponsors, betonline.ag, Vivid Seats, and of course our old friend Harry's Razors. Till next time, guys. See ya.